Hello everyone, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to Jerez in Spain. It's race 2 of our weekend. This is round 3 of our 2024 calendar. So here in Spain, where it never rains, well, it certainly doesn't today. Almost midway through our 2024 season, we head from here to Portimao, then La Casale in the south of France, ahead of Nürburgring in September, and the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy for Imola, the final round of this championship for 2024. We're delighted to be here and a really testing circuit for our drivers, and this is precisely what the circuit looks like and how it is designed. Opened back in 1985. There are some 13 turns, the 4.428 kilometers or 2.748 miles, 8 right-handers and 5 left-handers. So I was being flippant when I was saying about the rain. It's been absolutely blistering all weekend that we've been here. The weather conditions absolutely glorious. Now look at this, the track temperature, fry an egg on that asphalt, 45 degrees. Air temperature 35 degrees. And merely 2 kilometers per hour of wind to offer any respite from the temperature here. Imagine what it's going to be like in one of our 488 Challenger cars or one of the Shell 296 cars that will be out there on track. Some 20 cars that will be contesting effectively 2 classes within one and a 30-minute plus 1 lap race. Boy, it's going to be hot for those drivers. Henry Hassid goes from pole position for our Shell drivers, and Fabrizio Fontana will go from pole position for our 488 drivers. And the driver that's really out of position with regards to his qualifying is Alexander Nussbaumer, that we can see here. Was not able really to put a competitive lap together, Nico. He's at a disadvantage, but we know that Alexander knows how to overtake cars.
Yes, absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. And you're absolutely right, Dave. Alexander Nussbaumer totally out of position. P last in terms of his class. Well, thumbs up. There's only one way in terms of class it can go for Alexander, and that is to the front. And we do expect him to be quite active right from the start. And in these weather conditions, you can kind of argue if it's better to be all on your own and just focus on your own race and feel the heat, or just be distracted by everything that's going on around. I guess we will find out, well, we'll know in 45 minutes or so.
Ivan David Mari then, who was contesting for pole position within the 488 class. He ended up having to accept P2 because Fabrizio Fontana, the Formula Racing driver, put it on P1. Now, Tommy Lindroth had a torrid time of it in the race yesterday. Well, that's not strictly true. He had a brilliant race up until the very end when, unfortunately, a coming together meant that Tommy Lindroth ended the race in the gravel, which is not where he expected to be. He really rather felt that he would be on the podium, and he was on the trajectory to do that. But he will right the wrongs of yesterday today, I'm sure. And we will see how he goes as our drone now gives us a high-speed look at how the grid lines up here at the Jerez circuit in Spain. And there, as we climb just a bit higher, we will see all 20 of the cars lined up on the grid. It's always a very busy place just ahead of the start of the race. And there you can see right at the back, it's Tommy Lindroth and Pino Frascaro. We'll bring you the grid in full, of course, when the cars are released onto their formation lap. But the Shell drivers have a yellow strip across the top of the windscreen. And the 488 drivers driving last year's so successful Ferrari Challenge car have a blue strip across the top of the windscreen. That's how you will be easily able to identify which category each of the drivers is racing in. It was a brilliant qualifying, Nico, from John Dillon, who goes from P2 on the grid. I think it's his best qualifying to date. He was within a tenth and a bit of taking pole position. Well done, JD.
100%, yeah. John Dillon has shown his consistency. He has really, really improved and honed his racecraft, and he is now on the front row for the first time in the Ferrari Challenge Europe. And it's going to be very interesting if he can do something about Henry Hassid, who certainly looked like the quickest yesterday, reinforced that with pole position in qualifying earlier today. It's going to be a brilliant race, I'm sure.
Yeah, very much looking forward to it. Thanks, Nico. Alessandro Pierluigi, we can see there, driving the 144 car. He qualified P10. So we were talking about the Formula Racing driver Fabrizio Fontana just a few moments ago. Pole position for him once again. And right now, let's hear from him.
It's amazing. It's a dream to be here and drive for Ferrari. I came from rallies, is totally different, and to race in a racetrack obviously is different. You know the bagarre, you start with a lot of other cars, and is a different sensation and emotion. Very great opportunity to drive this car. In fact, I start this year for 488. I have Stefano Gai, he's my coach and friends, and here in Jerez I hope it will be the best. Start to prepare to thinking the race and study with Stefano, with the team, what is the setup of the car or the strategy, and speak what is the best situation or the better situation. I think this is the moment for me of emotion.
He's a great driver. And as he said, Nico, you know, this is a completely different experience for him. Comes here as a rookie in circuit racing and has laid his stall out pretty convincingly, if I'm honest with you. He comes from a rallying background, which is altogether different to this circuit racing business that we love so much. And he's taken 4 wins and a P2 place out of his rookie season so far, which is really rather remarkable. So lots of teams represented, of course, on the track, including the team of Pierluigi Alessandri, which is the Rosso Corsa team. Let's find out a bit more about them.
We are all driven by the passion for the red, for Ferrari, and we proudly represent Ferrari since 1994. Joining Rosso Corsa means to join the history of Ferrari Challenge and Ferrari.
The most important thing is the teamwork. The teamwork is the key of the success, because a good team, a good group is very important to develop and to go further, to win the race and to be the best team in the paddock.
I love that we can share experience also during all the day, also at dinner time. So for me, first experience very important because I can grow gradually and I really find a family and not just a team. I think it's a very, very sophisticated car with a great aerodynamics that surprised me. I have to say that it's good also because there are 4 levels where you can adjust. So let's say you can start maybe with traction control, electronic stability helping you a lot, and then when you feel more confidence you can reduce to, let's say, to the minimum. And also this one is a great opportunity. First experience and it's great. Now we are at 3rd race and it's fantastic.
Great to meet the Rosso Corsa team in their garage here. Of course, a team with so much heritage and history in the Ferrari Challenge. So right on cue, then the cars leave on their formation lap, led around by the Richard Mille safety car. They will line up side by side in grid formation, and then 30 minutes plus 1 lap of racing will be underway. Let's bring you the grid in full of all our runners and riders in the Coppa Shell and 488 Race 2, as will be contested here at the Jerez circuit in really, really gorgeous temperatures. Well, the drivers may not think quite the same. Row 1 then, it's Henry Hassid and a brilliant quali from John Dillon going from P2. Then we find Motohiko Isasaki, good quali from Motohiko. Manuela Gosner is alongside in P4. Tibor Valint and Thomas Gosner are on the 3rd row of the grid, it's P5 and 6. And then Christoph Herney and Corinna Gosner go from P7 and 8. On to row 5, where we find von Skeltemar and Pierluigi Alessandri. And then to the 6th row of the grid, P11 for Ken Abe, P12 for Ray Acosta. On to row 7, where we find Michael Martin going from P13 and Alexander Nussbaumer out of position, P14. And here come our 488 drivers, Fabrizio Fontana, Ivan David Mari. Then it's Niels Sibranson and Alexei Komarov, ahead of Tommy Lindroth and Pino Frascaro. Expect some overtaking to come from those two drivers, I would suggest. So that's the way it looks as Henry Hassid is weaving from side to side to try and generate some temperature into those tyres. So Henry Hassid then for Cassel Racing goes from pole position for race 2 in Coppa Shell.
Good morning. It was a very, very nice qualifying session. Blue sky, not a lot of traffic compared to yesterday. I think a lot of our drivers are very close to me, so we expect a very nice race for this afternoon. Thank you.
Rotiform pole position award held with pride, Nico, because he did it in qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. He did it in qualifying, he did it in the race yesterday. And he has the perfect position by dint of being on pole. He really has to be on his mettle. However, when the race gets underway, Motohiko Isozaki, Manuela Gosner on row 2. Those are certainly two drivers who will look to get on terms with those on the front row.
You are absolutely right, well identified. So cars then forming their side-by-side formation. Two cars of almost identical colours on the front row of the grid. It's not very often you see that with the Ferrari Challenge. Henry Hassid and John Dillon then. Henry Hassid driving for Cassel Racing. John Dillon representing the Grey Paul Nottingham team. And great to see the two side by side then. The Richard Mille safety car peels off into the pit lane. Stand by. Hold on to your hats. We're about to go racing. We have 30 minutes plus 1 lap of hot rock action to come from the Ferrari Challenge. Eyes on the lighting gantry then. And when the lights go out, let's go racing. Drag race into turn number 1 between Henry Hassid and John Dillon. Manuela Gosner trying to come to the outside of John Dillon. Von Skeltemar looking lively right at the beginning of the race, and the start is under investigation. Maybe that's because somebody didn't run through their grid box, Nico?
I would say, and let's stay on this for a moment, because Motohiko Isozaki on the inside, he looked like he had done what we thought he might do, and Manuela Gosner did exactly the same. We have reversed our first 2 rows on the grid, and that means Isozaki then Gosner. I think, I'm sorry to say, John Dillon certainly didn't look like he went through his grid boxes, but we will find out later.
Well, John Dillon is going backwards, as is Henry Hassid, and yes, you're right, Motohiko Isozaki leading from Manuela Gosner, and Henry Hassid, well, he took a long look at the back end of Manuela Gosner all race long yesterday. He's going to have to do the same again today right now. But Motohiko Isozaki, who's Coppa Shell AM champion, elevated to the Coppa Shell category this year, is leading this Ferrari Challenge race and is beginning to stretch his legs and break away with about 8/10 of margin over Manuela Gosner, who now gets the hurry up and gets a little bit closer to Motohiko Isozaki. So it is Isozaki from Gosner, from Hassid, from Valint and Dillon, and then Christoph Herney in the all-yellow car you could see there, before seeing another green 296 car, and that is the car of Thomas Gosner. Fabrizio Fontana leads Ivan David Mari, and a good start from Tommy Lindroth, who's vaulted up to P3. As I said, he wanted to right the wrongs of yesterday and is already doing that by finding himself into that P3 position. Let's put the first lap in the book then as the cars head towards the start-finish line. And it is Motohiko Isozaki who leads from Manuela Gosner. So there you can see as they all cross the line, and Motohiko Isozaki with his nose in front, and something's gone awry at turn 14. I think it might be Corinna Gosner, because we have a yellow flag, and von Skeltermar may be involved in that as well. And let's take a look here. There is Corinna Gosner losing the back end of the car, getting a tank slapper on, and in avoidance, von Skeltermar, unfortunately, his luck runs out. And I just wonder whether the Corinna Gosner car being up against the barriers, we're going to see a safety car almost for sure, because of where that car is positioned. The 296, and Corinna making her return to Ferrari Challenge this weekend, and it's a thrill to see her back in the car. And I have to say that possibly the weekend hasn't gone quite the way that she would have hoped it would. Now, advantageously for Motohiko Isozaki, or disadvantageously now as the safety car is called for, I was about to say advantageously for Motohiko Isozaki is the fact that Manuela Gosner, her rear view screen was full of defending from Henry Hassid, which of course would play into the hands of Motohiko getting up the road, but the safety car really rather neutralizes any gaps that occurred.
That is absolutely true, but well, the first 3 minutes are in the book, and we will get a replay of the start fairly soon, and let's pick out in terms of why the start is under investigation.
So here we are then. Basically the rule is every driver should drive through their grid box. Nico, you're absolutely right. John Dillon, I don't think, was through his grid box. So that drag race up to turn number 1. Fons was on the move with the shark's teeth in front of his car, and there you can see quite clearly that maybe John was a little bit over to the right, too far over to the right. We don't know that. We've had no further messages from race control. It's just our assumption. Manuela Gosner trying to put it around the outside there, and it was Henry Hassid and John Dillon running wide that allowed Motohiko Isozaki to get to the inside, basically on cold tyres, of course. So Henry Hassid was, he just probably didn't get the line through the turn that he wanted, and that played into the hands of Motohiko Isozaki.
Absolutely, and let's stay with this for a moment. I think the two may have just touched a little bit, and that was not the only one. And there is Motohiko Isozaki making the most of that, and Manuela Gosner just says, well, I'll have that gap as well, and thank you very much. Through I go.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. Well done, Nico. Yes, you're right. So Motohiko Isozaki leading from Manuela Gosner and Henry Hassid. And there you can see the Richard Mills safety car out there on track for the recovery of the Corinna Gosner car, and potentially also the von Skeltermar car. I don't know. It was just in complete avoidance that Fons had to almost throw the car sideways. Corinna is outside of the car and is perfectly okay, as we expected to see. Because these 296 cars, the integral safety in those cars is remarkable, and Corinna is perfectly okay, and it's just one of those unfortunate incidents. There was nobody else involved, and she just, the back end of the car got away, and von Skeltermar is still running. We can see him right at the back of the pack, so he's another driver that's got quite a bit of overtaking to do. Luck hasn't been on his side this weekend, it's fair to say.
No, it's fair to say. There we can see him, so good at least that he's able to continue and take part in the race, but obviously all grid position that he had is now lost.
I only started about 5 years ago, and the reason was my business partner. He's a Ferrari collector of Ferrari classic cars and new cars, and he always invited me to come on a Ferrari day with him. And I didn't know how to control such a powerful machine. And so eventually, after he asked me about 8 or 10 times, I said, okay, now I have to take a racing course. When I get in the car at the beginning, I'm always nervous. But then as soon as I have driven one lap, I get into a very calm, focused state. And it's just about trying to improve every lap. I mean, you pass a certain point or an apex, 10, 20 times, and you can always improve a little bit, and that is what draws me to it. Ferrari is the absolute pinnacle of where you can go in motorsports. I think it's the dream of every child. I think it's the dream of every grown-up who has a passion for cars, and it is just, it's the pinnacle. There's no other place you can go from there. That's how I feel.
Great to hear from Andreas Rizzi, who of course was victorious in race 2 at Balaton in Hungary when we were there just a couple of weeks ago. Regrettably, he's not racing today. He was here yesterday, but he's not able to make it today. So, Andreas, we look forward to seeing you back on track in Portimao. So, we remain behind the safety car with Motohiko Isozaki, Manuel Agostner and Henry Hassid, the top three. Now, with regards to the 488 drivers, it's Fabrizio Fontana, Ivan David Mari and Tommy Lindroth who are the top three. So Tommy Lindroth with a good start. He's got himself into a good position. P3. Will he be able to attack going forward? Well, Corinna Gosner regrettably won't, because her car is being recovered from the gravel at the moment, which is a great shame. But we're delighted that you're back racing with us, Corinna, because she missed the first couple of rounds this season, but is back with a vengeance and will come back in Portimao with indeed renewed vigour and determination, Nico.
Yeah, I'm sure. Going back to the topic of tyres, which you already alluded to, given that the temperatures on the track and in the air are so high today,
yes,
tyre pressures is really a sensitive topic here, because as you can imagine, the tyre pressure, once the tyre heats up and gets fully warmed up, the tyre pressure will increase. So some teams will have decided to put a little bit less tyre pressure. So when the heat is at its premium, as it will be during the race, it will be perfect. Others may have erred a little bit towards the side of, I will put a little bit more, so it's operating better at the very beginning, but that can carry the risk that it will wear off towards the end. So when we look at the overtakes at the beginning of the race, maybe a driver who was a little bit slower or is a little bit slower towards the beginning, those drivers' tyre may come to their own later towards the race.
Which is precisely what happened with Henry Hassid yesterday, who ran with his engineers, ran with lower tyre pressures to begin with, and that meant his car was vulnerable at the start, but his car came good towards the end of the race. And so we look at a replay once again of the race start, John Dillon and Henry Hassid getting together, which just really rather opened up the door to Motohiko Isozaki, and the safety car is going to come in at the conclusion of the lap that the cars are running on right now. But we're just taking a look at a replay of the start. Thibaut Valent also getting by John Dillon as well. And here we can see from being on board the John Dillon car, that was Thibaut Valent going through. And this was the unfortunate moment for Corinna Gosner, who got a tank slapper on in avoidance von Skeltermar. He had to dive to the right-hand side. Thankfully, he's got his car back out on track again. Corinna is perfectly okay, but her race is done and dusted. So, safety car coming in this lap. Motohiko Isozaki, Nico, will try and stack them up behind him.
Yeah, he will, and then he will decide when is a good moment to go. The safety car will peel off, I guess, coming towards the final sector. That's roughly where the chicane is, and from there on out, it's Motohiko Isozaki's decision on where to give it a footfall. The only rule is, once you accelerate, you can't back down again.
Yes, once accelerated, you stay accelerated. You can't lift and you can't do that. That would be really, really unfair on all the drivers behind. So, Motohiko Isozaki, it will be his decision. He'll be racing just next weekend, Nico, in Suzuka in the Ferrari Challenge Japan Series. I mean, he does a lot of racing. He is such a lovable individual. He wears his Ferrari passion with huge pride and loves being in the racing car as well, and hence why he's doing that jaunt back to Japan to race in Suzuka next weekend.
Absolutely. He is the living proof that passion for Ferrari exceeds all language barriers.
Absolutely so. The 105 car, Manuela Gosner, will feel that this is an opportunity for her perhaps to get on terms with Motohiko Isozaki. He goes, he has accelerated right now, and the first three cars behind have all anticipated when Motohiko was going to go for it. And now the chase is on then as the race resumes at 18 3/4 minutes plus a lap remaining in this race. Motohiko Isozaki leads Manuela Gosner, leads Henry Hassid, leads Thibaut Valent, leads John Dillon. In the 488s, Fabrizio Fontana gets away nicely ahead of Ivan David Mari and Tommy Lindroth. They are the top three in the 488 challenge. So, Henry Hassid, of course, what he will do, he will harry and keep the pressure on Manuela Gosner, and If my belief is correct, Nico, that once again will play into the hands of Motohiko Isasaki, but equally as Henry Hasid is chasing Manuel Agosna, he is going to be chased himself by Tibor Valin, the Hungarian star.
Who in turn will have to look out for John Dillon, who obviously dropped back from P2 initially, but he showed he's got the pace. But there is Henry Hasid, he's pressuring, he's looking for a way past, trying to get Manuel Agosna to make a mistake.
Dillon is going to get a drive-through penalty, Nico, for incorrect alignment at the start of the race. You called that, and you were right. So, unfortunately for John Dillon then, who had a brilliant day yesterday, a brilliant quali today, he's going to have to serve a drive-through penalty. That is going to elevate Christoph Herney. And, of course, it's going to take the pressure off Tibor Valin just for a moment. And somebody else with a drive-through penalty is car number 167, Nico. We're seeing that on our screen. That's critical. It's Henry Hasid, who is P3 at the moment. He's going to get a drive-through penalty for overspeeding the start.
It's a rare one to hear, but there is obviously a rule of how fast you can go during the start, because everybody has to kind of adjust to that. And if we went significantly over that, then that means it is a breach of the rules, and race control will have had enough time during the safety car phase to look at that, and obviously that is a big dent in the very, very good recent success of Henry Hasid. That means he will drop down the order once he takes that drive-through penalty. So both our orange cars from the front row of the grid,
isn't it,
will have to visit the pit lane.
Wow, the drama then unfolds in this Ferrari Challenge Coppa Schelem 488 race with drive-through penalty for that car, driven by Henry Hasid. And then, as Nico says, the other orange car that's out there on track running in P5 at the moment, John Dillon. They get drive-through penalties for different reasons. For John, it was for not going through the grid box at the start of the race on the rolling start. And for Henry Hasid, it was actually overspeeding at the start. As you quite rightly said, Nico, they have race control they have access to so much data and information. Now, surely the Ineco Rapata Ram course team will be on the radio to Manuelas, just saying, let him go. Don't get involved in a battle with him, because he's got to take a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, absolutely. And ideally, don't overstress your tires. If he wants to go behind him and try to get the slipstream and follow him. He will dive into the pit lane before too long. In the meantime, von Skelton are making up places, currently overtaking the 488 drivers, which in fairness with the new 296, that's not too tough a challenge, because it's just 2 seconds, 3 seconds a lap quicker, but he has to move up the order, and he does that. In the meantime, Fabrizio Fontana, Ivan David Murray and Tommy Lindroth still are top 3 in the 488s.
Well, neither driver's choosing to come in on that occasion to serve their drive-through penalties. When a drive-through penalty has been awarded, you get 3 laps to do it. Motohiko Isasaki leading then by a fairly healthy margin, Nico, of 1.978 seconds over Manuel Agosna. So Motohiko in a very good position here, driving with a very, very cool head in the very hot temperatures. Goodness only knows what the temperature is like inside the 296, but they do have very efficient air conditioning. And boy, don't you need that. You'd have it cranked to the max, I would have thought. Manuel Agosna still with Henry Hasid. Now, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that the Kessel team are trying to appeal Henry Hasid's drive-through penalty, but I'm not sure in what has been I'm tempted to say, glittering motorsport career, I've known for a drive-through penalty to be rescinded, actually.
It is the most rare of cases. Now, it is arguably one where the speed at the start can be monitored, or is being monitored, so the data are available, but by the same rationale, you would think that race control has access to those data before making the call, so
I think so.
Let's say it's not the most likely scenario.
And in fairness, the race director we have with the Ferrari Challenge, assisted by a number of people, is Claudio Garavini, who is by far and away a firm race director, but he's a fair racing director, and all drivers have a great deal of respect for him. So Motohiko Isasaki stretching his legs still further, taking another couple of tenths out of Manuel Agosna, who's running P2. Henry Hasid is P3 for the moment. It will become Tibor Valint in P3 now. For the 488 drivers, it is Fabrizio Fontana ahead of Ivan David Mari and Tommy Lindroth. They're the top 3 in the 488 category. We have 13.5 minutes plus 1 lap as Henry Hasid dives in now, and John Dillon follows suit. So both the orange cars go through the pit lane for a drive-through penalty at the same time. Remarkable. Remarkable.
It's one of the stories that we haven't seen, and we've done this a long time, but something new every day. Now, Motohiko Isozaki. Now, may Manuela Gostner, now that she has been released from having to look in the rearview mirror, will she be able to try and just focus and close the gap in front? Motohiko Isozaki, he moved up from Coppa Shell M last year. He was the champion. Is he going to take his first win in the next higher class?
Well, we will know in around about 13 minutes and a lap's time. So Motohiko Isozaki in that all-green car is leading the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell race ahead of Manuela Gostner, and now Tibor Valin up to P3 by dint of John Dillon and Henry Hassid having to take that drive-through penalty. They'll be doing some overtaking as they're returning out on track. And here is Motohiko Isozaki, our race leader. And if anything, Nico, he's just extending the margin a little bit. 1.8 seconds between himself and Manuela Gostner right now. And then Tibor Valin, P3 now. Manuela Gostner, we had a conversation with earlier on today. She's thinking of the long game and, of course, the championship. And she's in a reasonable position of needing to bank points. And will she go all out for the race win? Of course she will. She's a racing driver. But she also knows that on occasions, discretion is the better part of valor, and it's better to bank points for a P2 than bin the car in the hope of overtaking somebody.
For sure, for sure. In the meantime, Alexander Nussbaumer, who we talked about, started dead last in the Shell, is now up to P7, obviously helped also by the safety cars, but has also overtaken quite a few cars, and there is our leader in the 488 challenge.
Fabrizio Fontana got grand pace, that's for sure, and he has a margin of a couple of seconds, maybe even 3 seconds over Ivan David Mari. We can just see in the background of that picture there, and Ivan David Mari is being chased down by Tommy Lindroth, who is within 7/10. So Tommy Lindroth, who has had a P2 this year, would quite fancy another one, and at the moment, Fabrizio Fontana, 3.5 seconds to the good over Ivan David Mari. That's the car you're looking at now. It's one of last year's 488 Challenge Evo cars, which are still competing in the Ferrari Challenge this year in their own category. It is the 488 category. And there you can see how close Tommy Lindroth is now to Ivan David Mari. So we will see how that develops over the coming 11 minutes plus a lap. Tommy Lindroth then, P3 currently. Ivan David Mari is currently P2. In the meantime, Motohiko Isozaki and Manuela Gostner, they're P1 and P2 in the 296 Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell. So if anything, I think Ivan has got this a little bit under control here and is just managing that gap between himself and Tommy Lindroth.
Yeah, there were two very different lines, and you could just see it through turns number 2 and 3, whether you go in close to the first turn and then have to cut back a little bit, or if you stay a little bit wider and then have the easier line through turn 3. But we go back to our leaders, and indeed Manuela Gostner has reduced the deficit. It was 1.9 almost, it's down to 1.3. 10 minutes exactly remaining plus a lap, and this is far from over.
Yeah, you can actually visibly see now Manuela getting closer to Motohiko Isozaki. We'll get a live gap for you as they cross the timing line, and it's now down to under a second. Nico, 9/10. Make that 8/10 now as they break going into turn number 1. So within a lap or so, Motohiko Isozaki is going to be under significant pressure from Manuela Gostner. And Tibor Valin is trying to run in the wheel tracks of Manuela Gostner, but he's not quite close enough. However, Manuela is getting closer, indeed, to Motohiko Isozaki. Big shout out, as you said, for both Alexander Nussbaumer and Ray Acosta, who have moved up 6 and 7 positions in the course of the race thus far. Ray Acosta running P6, Alexander Nussbaumer running P7. So the lights are being flashed now by Manuela Gostner in the hope of distracting Motohiko Isozaki just for a moment. The gap is now down to 5/10. So have the Reparto Corsa Ram team set that car of Manuela Gostner's, set that car up absolutely perfectly to come good in the second half of this race. Yesterday, Henry Hassid said a lot of his success was due to the engineers who decided what pressures to run the tyres out at the beginning of the race. He said it made him vulnerable at the beginning, but it really came good in the second half of the race. Just wondering if maybe they've done the same with Manuela, because she looks a little less scruffy and skittish than Motohiko Isazaki, who's beginning to have to control a sliding car, Nico.
Absolutely, and this is the first opportunity, not necessarily into this turn, or is it? Or is it? Manuela Gosner on an unorthodox spot. Can Motohiko Isazaki get the switch back? No, overtake done. And that was quick and decisive.
Absolutely, Manuela Gosner deciding to go for it. Motohiko Isazaki really did try and come back, as you say, and get the switch back. It wasn't going to be the answer. So Manuela Gosner leads now from Motohiko Isazaki, who is P2, Tibor Valent, and then the battle for P4 is hotting up a bit because Thomas Gosner is right on Christoph Herney now. So, well, Manuela, now she has got past Motohiko Isazaki. What's her saying about how the team have set that car up, Nico? I'm not saying that I'm right, but she has got pace. Look, she's been able to get a gap of 1.16 seconds in the space of 5 turns.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see that she was the quicker of the two ever since the restart. Motohiko Isazaki got a little bit up the road, but ever since then she has eroded and clawed him back, and now she's released, she's moving up, and you can see that Tibor Valent is closing on Motohiko Isazaki just the same.
Well, just a big shout out to Henry Hassid as well, who's just set the fastest lap, and following his drive-through penalty is running P8. John Dillon is running P11. Of course, those two drivers having to recover from their drive-through penalties, which they took at exactly the same time. And Henry Hassid is 1:45.382 from him in terms of a lap time. Does give him the fastest lap, which incidentally in the race, Nico, fastest lap does give you a point.
Absolutely. Definitely he's got a point that he currently has, and definitely the quickest driver currently on the track. Also von Skeltema and John Dillon putting in very, very quick and good lap times. But they are about 20 seconds away from our lead group following that drive-through penalty, or in the case of von Skeltema, that incident at the start.
So Manuela Gosner has built a margin now of 2.5 seconds over Motohiko Isazaki. And the Coppa Shell driver then of the 193 car, she was pursuing Motohiko Isazaki. It was in this chicane where he got loose on the back end of the car, and he therefore didn't have exactly the right exit from the chicane. You then take a kink, but Manuela, like a viper, ready to pounce upon its prey, she could see the car was out of shape, and she was going to take advantage, and it was a late move to the inside. Fairness to Motohiko Isazaki, racing room was left for her. It would have been very easy to close the door, but he didn't do that, and respect to him for that. And here we can see that was how late the move came. What, 20 meters before the turn?
Something like that, certainly, but good and fair and respectful driving, as is typical of the Ferrari Challenge. And yeah, Manuela Gosner almost 3.5 seconds up the road now, and the gap between Isazaki and Tibor Valent is just 1.3 seconds. A quick look at track limits, which is always a topic here.
Oh no.
It's all relatively quiet thus far. Nobody with more than one penalty or one warning for track limits, except for John Dillon, who's at 3, and 3 is just the right side of where the penalty area starts. 4 is where you get the first penalty. So for him, he has to be careful. Everybody else still fairly safe.
Well, there we have it. As Tibor Valent now dives to the inside of Motohiko Isazaki. This is for P2, and in almost a carbon copy of what Manuela Gosner did, Tibor Valent goes through to pick up P2 ahead of Motohiko Isazaki. Once again, very fair driving from both of them, where it would be easy to close the door and prevent that happening. I think Motohiko Isazaki realizes that the car behind is quicker, and therefore I'm just going to lose more and more and more grip if I try and defend too steadfastly.
Yeah, definitely. And we're now at 4 minutes plus a lap remaining, and that means Christoph Herney will know that he has a chance to overtake, because Motohiko Isazaki is dropping down, and I think, you know, it may just be some issue with this car, because he really can't keep up with the pace of the other drivers around him.
You're right, he has just lost another place, as you so rightly said, to Christoph Herney, and I think it's just a question of time before Thomas Gosner makes a move on Motohiko Isazaki, and there he tries to do it on the inside, but wasn't quite in a position to do that at what is almost a hairpin. So Manuel Agostino now leading by 5.5 seconds to the good over Tibor Valent. You could just see, just going through on picture, the all-red car. There is Thomas Gostner, who's sensing the opportunity of a P4 here in this race, as Tibor Valent and Christoph Herney are in the P2 and P3 positions. Motohiko Isozaki holding on as best he can to this P4. I just think the car is arguably ill handling. It'll be interesting to look back in the records to see how many laps he did in qualifying, as he gets very sideways through the chicane. And Thomas Gostner drives all the way around the outside of him, and that, in fairness to me, I just think that's lending proof that he probably did a lot of laps in qualifying. The tyres are really struggling with him because he worked really hard at the beginning of the race, and I just think that the grip has gone away.
Certainly something doesn't give him the stability through the turns, and he is suffering through those last few minutes. I mean, still a very reasonable result, but with Alexander Nussbaumer 1.4 and Henry Hassid 3 seconds behind him, you can almost sense that he's going to drop a few more positions. But for the moment, he is running in P5.
He is running in P5, you're right. Motohiko Isozaki then is brilliant driver, and this was Thomas Gostner then. Just taking a look, and to be fair, he was given the advantage because Motohiko Isozaki didn't get the entry to the chicane dead right, and well, Thomas Gostner was just able to drive around the outside of Motohiko Isozaki to claim that P4 position. Manuela, his daughter, is leading the race by 6.5 seconds, as near as makes no difference, over Tibor Valent, and then Christoph Herney is getting ever closer to Tibor. So there could potentially be a threat to Tibor's P2, and it will come from the all-yellow Christoph Herney car. Manuela is so far up the road, she's checking her emails now, and there you can see inside the Inico Reparto Corsa Ram team. Say congratulations to that young man, shouldn't we? We had breakfast, oh, sorry, we didn't have breakfast with them, but we were at breakfast with them this morning, and yeah, congratulations to you, friend. Here is our leader in the 488 challenge. It is Fabrizio Fontana, Ivan David Mari P2, and Tommy Lindroth is P3, and Tommy has seen off the threat of Alexei Komarov for the moment, and now Christoph Herney is his rear view screen is full of the Thomas Gostner car, Nico. And as you predicted, Motohiko Isozaki has got a double whammy potentially here, because right behind him he has the car of Alexander Nussbaumer and also the hard-charging Henry Hassid. So with the remainder of this lap plus one more, this is the live championship. If everything finished the way it is right now, Henry Hassid would have 68 points, Manuel Acosta would have 50, and John Dillon would have 49. However, I rather think it may not finish the way it looks at the moment, as Alexander Nussbaumer takes a sweeping entry into that turn. Fair play, trying to get a bit of a slingshot there. And this is Henry Hassid on the 107 car.
Ray Acosta that you passed a little bit before. We just brought you that, and this has led to this triplet, and Alexander Nussbaumer really has to be careful. He wants to get by, he doesn't want to risk it, but equally he knows Henry Hassid has the speed,
yes,
and he doesn't want to be too cautious either. So very tricky position with the clock having struck zero. That means once Manuel Acosta crosses the timing line, which should be about 15 seconds or so from now, we will start the final lap.
Nussbaumer hunting, but being hunted at exactly the same time. So Manuel Agostino then leading the race by 6.5 seconds when last we counted. We'll get a live update when she crosses the timing line to start the final lap of this Coppa Shell race. And that starts right now. And the gap is 6.6 seconds. So Manuel Agostino in complete control out front. Tibor Valent, and then it is Christoph Herney. And meantime, Henry Hassid has got by Alexander Nussbaumer, and both of them still in this fight here. Motohiko Isozaki, who will be after Henry Hassid, dives to the inside of Motohiko Isozaki. Motohiko, though, does give him room, and Henry Hassid is not able to rotate the car through the turn. So Motohiko is able to hold on for another turn or so. as Henry Hassid continues to push really, really hard, and Alexander Nussbaumer right behind. And again, he tries to take a slingshot into that turn.
And this time it has worked. He has closed up on Henry Hassid, and he now has to be careful, but he is closing in on Motohiko Izazaki. Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? He's certainly going to give it a look. He's certainly trying it. I think he's done it.
In fairness, again, credit to Motohiko Izazaki for not defending that as if the back end of the car is made of concrete. You know, he allowed him the opportunity to go for the move. I suspect he just feels he was really, really defenseless, and rather than bin everything, sometimes it's better to be the better man. And so 70 points will go the way of Henry Hassid if it all stays this way right now. It's Manuel Agostner from Tibor Valint and Christoph Herney. Then it is Thomas Gostner, Henry Hassid, Motohiko Izazaki and Alexander Nussbaumer. So Manuel Agostner then, who has been faultless with a 7.2 second margin on this final lap, will head towards the checkered flag. And it seems remarkable. It's Manuela's first win of the season. She's had a P2, she's had a P3, but she wins ahead of Tibor Valint and Christoph Herney. And it's going to be Henry Hassid, having done a drive-through penalty, to take P5 ahead of Motohiko Izazaki and Alexander Nussbaumer. Then it's Ray Acosta. John Dillon also having to take a drive-through penalty. He will bank P9. Then it's Ken Abe, who is really, really across the line with von Skeltermar right behind him. And in the 488 race, Fabrizio Fontana, it's been another, dare I say it, easy race for him. He got the start nailed perfectly, and once he'd got his nose in front, he was never, ever going to be troubled, seemingly, and he has the chicane to do, plus another couple of turns, and it will be another 488 challenge success story for the former rally star, Fabrizio Fontana, for Formula Racing, who will head towards the checkered flag after rounding this final turn, and he will take what will be his 5th win of the season. Fabrizio Fontana is victorious in the Ferrari Challenge 488 category, ahead of, it should be Ivan David Mari and Tommy Lindroth, who finished P2 and P3. Bit of drama in that one, Nico.
Just a little bit. It's how we like, how we love, and how we know the Ferrari Challenge. It never happens the way that you think, and when you thought, well, Henry Hassid, he was the quickest over the weekend thus far, he's on pole position, well, what can go wrong? Well, it just shows you never know. Manuela Agostner, she was on pole yesterday, didn't quite make it across the line in P1. She made up for that today and got a P2 and a P1 out of this weekend. Very respectable, very, very good, and a strong rebound after some difficult results previously. Great driving from Tibor Valint, Christoph Herney, Henry Hassid. I mean, the speed just remarkable. And ooh, that was Niels Sebrans, I think.
Yes.
And he just ran a little bit too wide.
A bit like Fabrizio Fontana in a previous career in terms of driving through the gravel, friend.
Yeah, but he got it back onto the track, and thus we avoided the yellow flag there. But it's time to give credit to our winners. Parc Fermé underneath the podium. Manuela Agostner.
Oh, Manu, Manu, they cry. Brilliant drive from Manu Gostner then, who is congratulated, and first win of the season. It seems remarkable, actually, doesn't it? But it is her first win.
Just shows to prove that it's very, very minor things that are the difference between winning and a mediocre position at the end. And she hasn't had all the luck her own way, but she had the luck, the ability, and the team to do it today.
What was it you said at the beginning of our program here? You know what to expect with the Ferrari Challenge, and that's to expect the unexpected. Tibor Valint is congratulated, and team boss Andrea there with some water for him, and Corinna Gostner congratulates her sister. That's great to see.
The Gostner family there in full force to celebrate, and I mean, credit to Thomas Gostner, who didn't quite make it onto the podium, but P4, very, very good result. Only 4.5 tenths off the podium. Very, very good.
Stefano Guy there, congratulating his driver, Fabrizio Fontana. Stefano is his driver coach, as we heard from Fabrizio earlier. And yes, says Fabrizio, well done. Stefano then coaching him pretty well, to be fair. Yeah, it's another victory. So great stuff indeed. So we'll bring you a confirmation of the race result. Here it is. Manuel Gosner taking the win from Tibor Valint and Christoph Herney. They are P2 and P3. Thomas Gosner P4, Henry Hassid P5, Motohiko Isasaki P6. It's Alexander Nussbaumer that takes P7 and Ray Acosta with P8 ahead of John Dillon, Ken Abe, von Skeltermar, Pierluigi Alessandri, Mikael Martin and Corinna Gosner unfortunately finding herself up against the barriers. And for our 488 race, Fabrizio Fontana ahead of Ivan David Mari and Tommy Lindroth, Alexei Komarov, Pino Frascaro and Niels Branson doing some rally crossing right at the end of the race. So that is the order of everyone and what they have done. What a really dramatic Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell and 488 race. And we're going to be hearing from Manu Gosner in just a couple of moments.
Manu, you did it. Wow, what an incredible race for you today. From the third position to the first after a very tricky race with a safety car. And you, at the end, make a very gap important for you.
Yeah, I'm so happy about the race of today. The team deserves really this win because we are working a lot all this weekend through, and I'm super proud of everything we achieved. The start started in fourth position and it was quite chaotic, but I was able to find a good spot to pass two cars. And then I was in fight with Isozaki and I was able to pass him at the last corner. So I ended up in first position. I'm super happy.
Manu, can you say something to your Italian fans?
Oh, ciao ragazzi, un abbraccione a tutti, grazie del vostro tifo e sostegno. Ciao.
Thank you so much.
A te, ciao Ludo. Ciao, thank you.
Well done, Manu Gosner then, doing a good job and taking the win, and as she says, very kindly passing on the congratulations in equal measure to the team. In the Drivers' Championship, Henry Hassid leading by 24 points over John Dillon, and Manu Gosner now up to P3 in the Drivers' Championship points. There's all to play for these drivers as they head to Portimao in Portugal for the next round of the Coppa Shell racing with the Ferrari Challenge. We're going to hear from our 488 Challenge winner. Once again, it's Fabrizio Fontana who will be talking to Ludovica in just a moment, and we'll discover how easy the win was on this occasion.
Well, Fabrizio, another time here with you. A very tough race and day for you today, but you win another race, the third in a row for you. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. It's amazing. This is the fourth, but I improve a lot. Today I'm in comfort zone, and you see the car is everything is okay. Stefano, veramente is a very good coach. The team is very fantastic, and see you, I think, in Portimao. Vorrei dire anche una cosa in italiano, ringrazio tutti quelli che mi stanno seguendo, ringrazio la mia famiglia che è qua e devo dire grazie a Stefano e a tutto il team.
Fabrizio thanking his family and he's also once again
thank you, Fabrizio.
Thank you too.
He is thanking Stefano Guy. Incidentally, he is Stefano Guy's new fan club president, I would think, Fabrizio Fontana. Let's enjoy the highlights, Nico.
He takes away my job. I don't like that. Well done, Fabrizio.
Momentarily, we will be heading up to the podium. Before then, let's take a look at the race statistics then. Top speed in the 488s, 222.6. In the Coppa Shell, 235.2 kilometers per hour. Best progress, Alexander Nussbaumer in Coppa Shell, Tommy Lindroth in the 488s. Up to the podium next, and Michele Mambelli will bring out the drivers that will be in receipt of awards for their progress in the race today. Christoph Herney then takes P3 for Zenith Scuderia. Tibor Valent then for Ferrari Budapest Rosso Corsa will be on the second step of the podium. And her first win of the season, richly deserved for Manu Gosner on the top step of the podium.
Well done. Well done, Manu.
National anthem.
Il nostro applauso, claps for the winner sul podio, on the podium, Ineco Reparto Corsa Ram team manager. The trophy are presented by Ifei Ye, Ferrari factory driver.
Ifei Ye then, the Ferrari factory driver here doing trophy presentations. To Christoph Herney, who receives his P3 trophy. Tibor Valent will be in receipt of trophy for P2. And then Manuela Gosner on the top step of the podium with a margin, may I remind you, of 7.3 seconds out front.
Manu Gosner.
Well done, Manuela. She receives her trophy. And of course, Ineco Reporter Corsa Ram will be in receipt of the Coppa Teams trophy as well. What are you grinning about?
Just seeing happy people and all the enjoyment down in the paddock there. Thomas Gosner and
photos and pictures from Jerez Fronteira. Okay.
Who will win the champagne race? No question, Manu Gosner. Stand by.
And team manager out of the show, and now the show is over.
I told you.
It's not over without.
Stick with it, stick with it, stick with it. Oh, well, we don't know.
Oh.
Be careful up there.
Indeed.
P3 for Christoph Herney for Zenith Scuderia then. The 162 car taking that P3 position. For Rosso Corsa Budapest, Ferrari it is Tibor Valent. And then for the Ineco Reparto Corsa Ram team, what a driver. Manuela Gosner, P1. So, of course, we get the podium resorted because we have another podium to come, and that will be for the 488 drivers. First out is going to be Tommy Lindroth. Here he comes. Ivan David Mari will take P2.
And the winner is
Well done, Fabrizio.
National anthem.
applauso con sul podio team manager Formula Racing Stefano Gai sul podio.
Stefano Gai, he knows how to make his way onto a podium. And FA once again making the trophy presentations. Tommy Lindroth receives his P3 trophy. And for Ivan David Mari, he receives his P2 trophy. And Fabrizio Fontana, well, he's going to have a steel RSJ underneath the mantelpiece now to support how many trophies he's got. He takes yet another race winners trophy, and Lucio Vigani is here as well. Of course, he will make a trophy presentation. Pirelli, as the Coppa Team Award is awarded to Formula Racing, but there is Lucio Vigani with the Pirelli Award. He is our Pirelli Motorsport Manager, and he'll be hot-footing it to Suzuka from here, as indeed will Morihiko Isozaki, who ended up finishing P6, of course, in the race.
Jerez della Frontera 488 trophy, okay? And now for the driver, wait a second, Ifei, Stefano and Lucio out of
makes
the
haste his
show.
escape, he's good at
And
doing
now,
that.
champagne!
And Tommy Lindroth drives car number 227 for Gome Motorsport Baron Racing Team. He takes P3. For P2 for Garage Zenith, the best lap, FCI, Ivan David Mari. And then for Formula Racing, driver of the car number 269, of course, is Fabrizio Fontana. So there we have it. All the silverware has been distributed appropriately. That's it from the Jerez Drivers' Championship in terms of the points that they can score this weekend. It's all off to Portimao next. Fabrizio Fontana on 100 points. Tommy Lindroth in P2 with Pino Frascaro P3 in the Drivers' Championship points. And that's how it looks. So there we have it from Nico and from myself. Thank you so much for watching the Coppa Shell and 488 race. And we will be back with more racing to come this afternoon. If you can't join us for that, make sure you join us in Portugal. Bye-bye.